I am in my version of Super Week. This is my third of 4 events of my experimental week of doing high intensity or races every other day as a 69-year-old. Hey cycling community, this is Steve Grusis the Cycling Greek. Even though this race goes over the same roads as I did on Tuesday, there are 2 significant differences. First is, this course is in reverse. Even though it's in reverse, it's a mirror image, so no big deal. The big difference is the second reason. I'm only racing with my own category, Category C. In the Tuesday race, all of a sudden after the start, the A's and B's show up. That of course meant things were just faster. And compared to this race, this was a lot more comfortable. Coming into this race, I was concerned about how I was going to do because this was again going to be my third effort. As I'm sure many of you heard, it's not recommended that you do more than 2 hard efforts during the week. And I can feel those continuous efforts stacking up because I'm really appreciating that this is not as fast as that Tuesday race. Jumping ahead to just under 10 miles to go, I'm pretty much doing what I usually do, stay toward the front, just so I don't get caught behind any big gaps that may happen from surges. Now, there's a person that's taken off in the front there. He's probably thinking that this has gone too slow, so he's going to go on his own. Or maybe he's trying to draw out some people so he can form a little group. Since this is so far from the finish, I'm doing what everyone else is doing, is letting him burn out there. If there are riders that do start to jump toward him, then I'll have to decide what I'm going to do. Right now, it looks like there's 1 or 2 that are making the effort, but the rest of the pack is not going to let them go, and we're slowly bringing that other person back in. Still, things can change because there's a lot of energy in this pack, I would imagine, because we haven't been going all that fast. We started off with 43 riders, and we whittled it down to about 32 in this front group. With only a little more than a third of this distance covered in this race, we've only climbed less than 70 feet. And this race climbs a total of about 504 feet. And most of it's going to come in that bridge going over the river around the middle of the course. Jumping ahead to halfway point in this race, we're coming up on a sprint point. Now, as with the other race on Tuesday, people just start taking off on this. And so I'm thinking this could be because it's part of a stage race, and for those participating, there's a green jersey involved. I don't know about that. All I know is that these people are trying to get away, and they're going to try and form their own group and try to hold it to the finish. And so I got to go fast to stay with them. Other than small attacks that 1 or 2 of the riders have done earlier in the race, this is really my first big test. With my accumulated workload, am I going to crap out when I go above a certain intensity for a certain amount of time? Apparently not yet. Also, with the biggest climb coming up and all this distance left, I'm not going to counter this one. Speaking of that climb, I jumped ahead about half a kilometer and we're on that climb now. I was hoping I would get the feather power up, and which a lot of people are using now, but all I have is a drafting boost. But I can work with that, and since we're not going balls out, I'm able to keep a very good position and keep an eye on that guy that's going out in the front. Now, if you look at the insert map in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that we're stretched out and we're starting to split apart. Now, we've just gone over the top, and so we have a slight downhill, and then we're going to have a little bit more of a descent. If we keep the speed up, we'll be able to drop some riders. If we slow down, then it's all going to come together again. What's going to help us keep our speed up is that rabbit that's out there. We have some people that are trying to jump over to him. They're going to try and form a new split and maybe try to finish with like 3 or 5 riders in that group. The rest of us in this group do not want us to be a second group, so we're chasing hard, and then we're able to bring that rabbit back in. I've now jumped to about 4.7 miles to go. With 21 left in our pack, I need to whittle this thing down. And I have a little bit of extra energy, so now I just take off. I'm hoping that I can get joined by a couple people here and then form our own group. Looks like there's somebody that is coming up to me, but actually everyone is starting to come up to me. So if I'm able to maintain this and they start to weaken and drop off, I can have this small group that I have in front of me right now. Make sure they stay with this guy. After he gets in front of me, he slows. I then take off because I want this to continue. Maybe I can just weaken that group. I see 1 and 2 second splits on the graphics on the right, and I look at the map and I see that split there, but I can't keep this up forever. I slow up and I just integrate back into the group. And of course I make sure that I don't want to get dropped either. Jumping ahead to 3.4 miles to go, that did drop a few riders, and now we're starting to go up some more climbing, and others are going to start to drop off. Hopefully it's not me, so I'm trying to stay toward the front and so far doing a good job with that. This is not a steep climb. It's only a couple percent, but it does go for a ways. And so that can just eke on somebody, especially if they're on the edge and this is toward the end of the race. I sure wish I was behind a wheel. Right now, I wish I was behind a wheel. I can control some things in my positioning only based on how I think the algorithm works. Some more splits have happened, and so right now I think we're down to a group of 12 or so. Looks like there are some riders that have been saving their energy as they are now putting in some well-timed attacks on this now 7% climb. I'm going to speed up the action a bit as I'm back here and they're up there. And we still have more climbing to go as we have another 100 feet of ascent to go in this race. Looks like I'm on the back end of a strung out pack of 12 with another 2 riders 6 or 7 seconds behind me. I'm still able to push the watch, I just have to make sure I don't push too many in red line. I want to connect with the group before I get to the top for 2 reasons. 1, they can maybe get me up to the next group, or 2, I'll be sprinting these guys and rather than sprint for, let's say, 12th place, I'll maybe sprinting for 8th place. As I run the curve, this I see as the top and I quickly hit my power up so maybe I can get a better power up. It is now 2.4 miles to go. I'm close, but I'm not on anybody's wheel, so I have to make sure that I get on somebody's wheel. Over a mile later with a mile to go, I'm finally able to do that. I'm dialing back on the power riding wheel so I can rest as much as I can. I'm not paying attention to what's going on behind me, and I should because there's a couple of riders that are coming up, and they're coming up pretty fast. So my little group of 3 that could give me a worst place of 12th is now going to turn into a group of 5, give me a worst place of 14th. Having caught us, I figure they're tired, so this is where I counter. At just under half a kilometer to go, I figure this is the perfect place for me. Of course, there's the factor of the accumulated fatigue. But no matter, with under 1,000 feet to go, I got my ugly face on. All of a sudden, 2 of the riders that are chasing me are well into the orange numbers. They come by me. That kills me mentally, and I let up, still knowing that Sokolov is just 1 second behind me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Look for those other 2 races in the description below. As always, remember, comment, like, subscribe. The Cycling Greek.